Aeneas clearly longs to have his own city. Every city he comes to, he stares at obsessively. You'll remember Aeneas is just so obsessed with looking at things. And every city we get the same way. We see it through Aeneas' eyes. He lingers over the fall of Troy. He's fascinated by the growth of Carthage. He loves his trip to Pallanteum. But we never see him found a city in Italy. We do see him try and found some cities abortively across the Mediterranean, but not in Italy, and he never finds the city to which he can attach his identity and the identity of the Trojans in the epic. He doesn't even establish the city of Lavinium, which he is prophesied to establish and named after his Latin wife. None of that happens until after the end of the epic. So, one question that's worth asking is, what kind of city foundation does Aeneas participate in? To explore this, I'm relying on a really good article by Sharon James, which hinges on the use of one single word in the Aeneid. In the 5th line of the Aeneid, we are told that everything Aeneas goes through was to establish a city. Dum conderet urbe. And the Latin verb condere means to hide or bury, literally. But in this context, Virgil uses it, and this is quite a normal usage, to mean to dig foundations. It does sound like we're going to see Aeneas actually dig the foundations of the city of Rome, as Romulus will later do in legend. But he doesn't. Instead, at the very end of the epic, 3 lines before that final moment, the verb returns, as we're told that Aeneas, quote, buries the steel in the heart that confronts him. Verum adverso subpectere condit. The epic climaxes with its Trojan hero not founding the city of Rome, but, while using the word for foundation, instead slaughtering his main opponent, Turnus, in Italy. So, why does Aeneas' foundation story end up being about violence against other inhabitants rather than about building? This violence is particularly unsettling when we read it alongside the most straightforward description of Roman character back in Aeneid 6. Here in the underworld, Aeneas' father delivers some home truths. You, who are Roman, recall how to govern mankind with your power. These will be your special arts: the enforcement of peace as a habit, mercy for those cast down, and relentless war upon the proud men. This is one of the only moments in the whole epic where we're told exactly how the community of Romans is supposed to behave. In fact, it's clearly a fundamental part of Roman self-image, both before and after Augustus. And I gave you a couple of similar passages to see how this goes much further than Virgil's text. It's clearly a fundamental part of Roman self-image, which we can see already in Cicero's writings, 20 years beforehand, where he says something very similar. Not only must we show consideration for those whom we've conquered by force of arms, but we also must ensure protection to those who lay down their arms and throw themselves upon the mercy of our generals. And then you'll see, more than 20 years later than the Aeneid, in Augustus's Res Gestae, he himself uses the same language. This is the text that celebrates the actions and behaviours of Augustus, which he had inscribed at various points across the empire. And he says, "Those who killed my father, I drove into exile by way of the courts of law, exacting retribution for their crime. And afterwards I defeated them twice in battle, while they were making war upon the state. I've often conducted wars by land and sea, civil and foreign, across the whole world. And as victor, I was merciful to all citizens who asked for pardon. As for foreign peoples, those whom I could safely pardon, I preferred to preserve than to destroy." When Aeneas apparently doesn't behave according to these particular qualities at the end of the Aeneid, he doesn't spare Turnus, though the Latin warrior had fought bravely and then admitted defeat, we might conclude that Aeneas is not a very good Roman. Perhaps because there is no such thing as Romans yet. They just don't exist. Or perhaps when Anchises says, "You who are Roman," he's not really talking to Aeneas, but only to some future readers. that sit there and think, oh, that's me, that's what we have to do. Alternatively, Aeneas is a Roman, but he's one who's a bit too much like Augustus, in the sense that he's quicker to identify an arrogant enemy than he is to recognise a humble suppliant.